Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this dress here. Now it's sized for 0 to 6 months, and that is the only size that I have available at the moment. So 0 to 6 months is what this will fit. And I also want to encourage you to, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, where there's lots of other baby dresses and there's hundreds of tutorials on there. So please don't forget to do that. Maybe give this video a like and a share if you can. So let's go ahead and get started on it. For this project, I used Caron Simply Soft. It is a medium weight, 100% acrylic yarn. You do not have to use this brand. Any other 4-ply yarn will work. You just want to make sure that it's a little softer for baby. The color I used is grape, and there are, let's see, 315 yards per skein, and this is what I have left of my second skein. So you're probably going to need about 450, 500 yards probably. That's what I'd say of the main color. And then I also used the same brand. Not a whole lot. 50 yards maybe, probably, of regular white. And then you're going to need some hook and eye closures. That is to sew up the back. And some matching thread and needle to sew these on. And you're going to need some ribbon. This is optional if you choose. The size of ribbon I used is 3/8 inch, and it's the two-toned. If you feel that it's too thick, you can always use a smaller ribbon if you want. And then also a ribbon rose of your choice if you want to do that. Also, that's optional. And some thread and needle to sew that on too. And then I used a size H, which is a 5mm crochet hook. Remember, this is just the one size that I have, 0 to 6 months. And don't forget to check out below in the description box to find the link to where you can get the written pattern. Okay, you want to start off with a chain of 50. And once you get your chain of 50 made, what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook. And now remember, we don't count this one that's on a hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and double crochet into that 4th stitch. Just like that. And now I'm going to continue putting 1 double crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. So just like that. 1 double crochet every stitch until you get to the end of the chain. Okay, once you make it all the way to the end of row 1, you should have a total of 48 double crochets, and that is counting this chain here on the very end. That counts as a double crochet. So counting that one, you should have a total of 48 now. So for round 2, or row 2, I'm sorry, we're going to chain 3 and we're going to turn our work. Now that chain 3 is going to count as a double crochet. So we're going to do a double crochet into the next stitch. So not this hole right here, but this next one. We're going to yarn over, not this one, the next one. And that's where we're going to put our first double crochet. Like that. So counting that chain 3, we have 2 double crochets in a row. So the next stitch, we're going to put 2 double crochets in the same stitch, and that's going to be our increase stitch. And now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of repeat that. We're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 here and 1 here. So 1 in the next, and then 1 in the next, and then the next stitch will be our increase stitch. We're going to put 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Again, we're going to repeat that. 1 double crochet, in each of the next 2 stitches. So one here and one here, one double, and then one double in the next. And now the next stitch will be our increase stitch. It's going to get 2 doubles in the same stitch. And this is our pattern that we're going to repeat all the way to the end of the row. One double into the next 2 stitches, so 1, 1, and then 2 doubles into the next. One double in the next 2, 1, 1, and 2 doubles in the next. And you want to repeat that all the way to the end of the row. Okay, I'm coming to the end of row 2, and I did 1 double crochet here and 1 double crochet here. Now my last stitch is going to be this little chain here on the end, and you want to make sure you get that one, and it's going to be 2 double crochets into the top of this little chain here. A lot of people tend to miss that because it kind of just blends in, and it kind of don't even look like a stitch, but you got to make sure you pull that out, and your last, it'll be right in the top of it, your last stitch will be 2 double crochets into the top of that little chain there. Now at the end of row 2, you should have a total of 64 double crochets now. Now we're going to start round 3 by chaining 3 and turning our work. Now that chain 3 is going to count as a double crochet. So we're going to go ahead and start by putting 1 double crochet in this stitch here. Not this very first stitch here, but this one. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So now if we look and we see what we have that chain 3 counts as a double, so we have 3 double crochets in a row now. Now the next stitch is going to be our increase stitch. It's going to get 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And this is what we're going to kind of repeat this entire row 3. So we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1 there, 1 in the next, and 1 in the next. And then the next stitch will be our increase. It's going to get 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Again, 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, and the next one is 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So we're going to repeat this all the way to the end of row 3. 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then 2 double crochets into the next. And repeat that, 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches, and 2 double crochets into the next, all the way until you get to the end of the row. Okay, I'm coming to the end of row 3. Now I just did my 3 double crochets in a row. Now my last stitch is going to be 2 double crochets right here into the top of this chain 3. So we're going to put 2 double crochets into that one. And now you should have a total of 80 double crochets at the end of row 3. What I'm going to do now is connect my work. So I'm just going to take it, and I'm going to bring over this side, put them together like this, and I'm going to slip stitch into this chain 3 right here, into the top of it. Now it's connected like that, and then I'm going to start row 4 by chaining 3 and turning my work. So now it's connected there. So our work's going to be connected from now on. So go ahead and turn your work. Now what I want to do is 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now if you look, counting that chain 3 we just did, we have 4 double crochets in a row. So now the next stitch is going to be 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And that's kind of the pattern for row 4. 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. One double crochet into the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next. Now we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back over here to our starting point. 1 double crochet in the next 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next, all the way around until you get back over here to the beginning. Okay, I've come to the end of row 4, and I have 1 stitch left. You can see it right here. It looks like maybe you have 2, but you really only have 1, because this chain 3 is attached to this stitch right here. So you should be putting 2 double crochets in that last stitch, and you should have a total of 96 stitches now at the end of row 4. So we're going to end by slip stitching into our beginning chain 3, and then we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the armholes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches, not counting this one right here. So 14, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's 14. So now counting this chain 3, we'll have 15 there. So now we're going to do a chain of 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to skip the next 19 stitches. So count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then the next one we're going to double crochet. So skip 19, and the next one with that chain 2 still on your hook, yarn over and go into the next one and double crochet like that. Now counting this double crochet here, we're going to double crochet into the next 28 stitches. So this would be our first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I did my 1 double in those 28 stitches, and now again I'm going to do a chain of 2, and I'm going to skip 19 stitches again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And in the next one I skipped 19, and in the next one I'm going to double crochet. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the remaining stitches, and there should be 15 counting this one right here. So this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I put 1 double crochet into my last 15 stitches, and I'm right back here at the beginning. So I'm going to end with a slip stitch into my beginning chain 3. Now you should have a total of 58 stitches, and that is not counting these stitches here that we skipped, or the chain 2. So we had the we did the 14 in the beginning plus that chain 3, which totaled 15, and then we skipped, and then we did 28, and then we skipped, and then we did another 15, so that'd be the 58 stitches total, and that is round 5. So for round 6, we're going to chain 3, turn our work, and now what I'm going to do is just go around and put 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I'm going to start right here and put 1 double in every stitch all the way around. And when I get to this chain 2 space up here, I'll show you what we're going to do. On this last stitch here, and now when you're at your chain 2 space, you want to just do 2 double crochets through the whole space. So I'm just going to go right through the whole space, and there's 1 double and then 2 doubles. And now I'm going to continue with this first stitch here, continue working 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. And when I get to my next chain 2 space, I'll just put 2 double crochets through it, just like we just did. And I'll continue putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 6 here. And I'm going to end with a slip stitch into my beginning chain 3 here. And you should have a total of 62 stitches now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start the main portion of our dress. So we're going to start off with a chain 1 and a turn of our work. Now that's the last time that we're going to turn our work. Now we're just going to be working around and around without turning our work anymore. So what we're going to do is, working in the same stitch that we just slip stitched into right here, we're going to work a V stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and go into that stitch, and it's kind of a tight fit. It's right here, this one right there. And we're going to work a double, and we're going to chain 2, and we're going to go right back into it and do another double crochet. So that is how we're going to work our V stitches. Okay, now we're going to work all these stitches really close together, this first row here of the dress part. By doing that, it's going to make it more gathered looking, more roughly looking. So in the next stitch, we're going to do a half double crochet cluster. So working in the very next stitch, we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, drop a loop, and you want to do that 4 times total. So that was 1, yarn over, go into the loop, 2, yarn over, go into the space, 3, and 1 more time, 4. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 9 loops and chain 1. Now in the next stitch, we're going to do the V stitch again. So we're not skipping any stitches in between. The next stitch is going to be a V stitch. So we're going to do a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. Now the next stitch, we're going to do our little cluster here. So we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, drop a loop, and you want to do that 4 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go through all 9, and chain 1. Now the next one will be a V stitch. So go into the next stitch and do a double crochet, a chain of 2, and another double crochet. Now the next stitch will be another cluster. So we're going to yarn over and go into the very next stitch, drop a loop 4 times total, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through all 9, and chain 1. So we're going to repeat this all the way around, and it's going to start to look really crunched up, and that's fine because that's what you want. The more rows you do, the more it'll start to fan out and look like a ruffly dress. So don't get discouraged if it starts to really clump up on you on this row. So the next one is going to be the V-stitch. So we're going to go right into it. Double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then the next one will be the cluster. So we're going to yarn over, go in, drop a loop 4 times total. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, go through all 9 loops, and chain 1. So I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to the beginning. So my next one will be a V-stitch, double, chain 2, and a double, and then the cluster, V-stitch, cluster, all the way around till you get back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it to the end of round 7, you should have ended in the cluster stitch. You want to make sure you chain 1 after that, and what we're going to do is end round 7 by slip stitching into your first double crochet here of this V-stitch. And you still should have 62 stitches at the end of round 7, and we should always have 62 stitches from here on out for the dress part, for the skirt part of the dress. So it's to be 31 clusters and 31 V stitches. So for round, that was round 7. Round 8, what we're going to do is slip stitch over to our first V stitch. Now round 8 and 9 are the repeat rows for the entire skirt. So we're on round 8 right now. So what we're going to do is start it by slip stitching over into our first V stitch. So slip stitch 1 time to that chain 2 space of that first V stitch, and we're going to chain 1. Now what we're going to do is a cluster into this chain space. So we're going to yarn over and just go right through the chain space, drop a loop 4 times total just like before. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and you should have 9 loops on your hook. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yarn over and go through all 9 and chain 1. Now what we're going to do is our V stitch, and we're going to do it in the chain 1 space on top of this cluster. So right there is where we're going to put our V stitch. So we're going to yarn over and go right in on top of that cluster and do a double crochet, a chain of 2, and right in the same spot another double crochet. And now we're at right here at this V stitch. We're going to do a cluster right here into that V stitch space. So we're going to yarn over, go right into the space, and drop a loop 4 times total. So that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. 9 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through all 9, and chain 1. Again, we're going to put a V stitch into this chain 1 space right here on top of the next cluster. So we're going to yarn over, go right into that chain 1 space, and do a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. So it's kind of like what we just did before, but we're doing it opposite what we did before. So next what we're going to do is go back into this chain space right here and do our cluster. So yarn over and go through the space and drop a loop 4 times total. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 loops. Go through all 4, chain 1, and now we're going to V-stitch right here into the top of this cluster. So go right into that space, that chain 1 there, do a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. So we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 8, and you still should have your 62 stitches, 31 of your clusters and 31 of your V's. And now we're going to end by slip stitching into the top of this first puff stitch. So right there, the chain 1 of the puff, that's where we're going to slip stitch into. So I ended in the V, and now I'm going to slip stitch into this puff. Now the only difference, we're going to start round 9, and between round 9 and round 8 is just the way you start. Before we started with a puff on round 8, now round 9 we're going to start with a V. So we're going to start by chaining 1 and going right back into that same stitch that we slip stitch into and doing a V stitch. So we're going to do a double crochet, chain of 2, and another double crochet. Other than that, it's just a repeat of what we did on round 8. So now right here we're going to do a puff in this V-stitch space. And then we're going to do a V-stitch right here in the chain 1 of that puff. And then a puff or cluster, I don't even know what I've been calling it, puff or cluster right here in this chain space. Nope, I messed that one all up. And then we'll V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the next cluster. So we're just going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back to the beginning. Okay, when you get to the end of round 9, all you want to do is end with a slip stitch into your first double crochet. So that's all it is. It's just a repeat of rows 8 or rounds 8 and 9, and they're pretty much the same except for the beginning and the end. But you want to repeat rounds 8 and 9 until you get a total. I've already went ahead and did it. 23 rows, and that's starting from the very first row. So starting from this row all the way down, you want to have 23. And you can do it longer if you wish. That's completely up to you. It's not going to change the look of the pattern, except for it's just going to make your dress look a little longer. But now what we're going to do is start the edging. But I'm going to keep my purple on the hook for the first round of the edging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here where I slip stitched, and I'm going to work single crochet all around. So I'm going to chain 1. Now I'm going to go right back into that same stitch and single crochet, and now I'm going to put 2 single crochets right here where this chain 2 space is. So just go right through it and put 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to put 1 right here where this double crochet is. And then I'm going to put 1 right here on top of this puff stitch where we are working the V stitches before. Not here, but right here on top. And that's the kind of the repeat I'm going to do. So I'm going to put 1 single crochet into the next double, 2 single crochets into this chain 2 space of the V. So just go right through and work 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet into the next double, and then 1 single crochet on top of this puff. We're not doing this stitch here. This isn't anything. We're going right here onto the top and going right into it and putting a single crochet. So just like that. And we're going to do this all the way around. So again, 1 single into the next double, 2 singles into the next chain 2 space, 1 single into the next double, and then 1 right over here on top of this puff. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around until I get back here to the beginning. Okay, I'm coming to the end of round 24, our single crochet round, and you should have 155 single crochets now. That does not count this chain 1 here. So 155, not counting that chain 1. Now what we want to do is slip stitch into our first single crochet, and I'm going to tie this off, and I am going to start a new color. So clip that off. Now I'm going to bring in some white now, and I'm going to start it in the same spot that I just left off. So right there, I'm going to go ahead and start my yarn, pull it through. I'm going to try to hide these tails as I go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to repeat that last row. I'm going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch. So I'm going to go right back into that same stitch that I started into and single crochet. And now I'm going to work around putting 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get back to the beginning. And I'm doing this with my white edging color. Now this is round 25, and when you get back around to the end of round 25, you still should have 155 single crochet when you make it back around. So I'm going to continue around putting my 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get back to my starting point. Okay, once you make it back around with your single crochet and you have 155 stitches, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into our first single crochet. Now we're going to work on the edging, the main part of the edging, or the decorative part, I guess. So what we're going to do is chain 1 and go right back into that same stitch and do a double crochet. Okay, now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work down the post of this double crochet, and we're going to work 5 double crochets. Now we're going to work it in between this chain 1 and the double. So you just yarn over, and you see this chain 1 here that we made? Go right in between that and the double. That way you're only going around the double and not that chain 1. And do 5 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5. Okay, now we're going to skip 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next one we're going to do a regular double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one, double crochet. And then we're going to do a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, we're going to work down the post of this double crochet, and we're going to work 5 more double crochets around the post. So yarn over and just go right around the post and work 5 doubles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just like that. So that's what it's going to kind of look like around the edging. So again, we're going to skip 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next one we're just going to do a regular double crochet, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work 5 double crochets around this post. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's pretty easy. I think it's pretty easy edging, and it looks really neat. So again, we're going to skip our 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, double crochet into the next one. Work a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and 5 double crochets down this post. So there's 1, 2, 3, oops, 4, and 5. And that's what we're going to continue all the way around the entire bottom of the dress. Skip 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double crochet into the next. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then work 5 doubles down this post. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's a lot easier than it looks, isn't it? So I'm just going to continue working this pattern until I get back over here to the beginning. Okay, when you make it all the way around back to the beginning, you should have 4 stitches left to skip. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you want to slip stitch into your very first double crochet here, and it's probably going to be pretty hard to see because it's right here in between that chain. Here's the chain 1 and the double crochet that we went down. So if you just want to if you just want to slip stitch into this spot right here, it's not going to be a big deal if you can't find exactly. That's what I'm going to do. Slip stitch right into that spot, and I'm going to clip this off. And then I will hide that tail. And you should have 31 now of these, I don't know what you want to call them, shell things at the bottom of your dress. So let's take a look at it now. See what we got here. We got, this is what it's starting to look like now. This is what it's starting to look like now. Okay, so now we got to work on the sleeves and the collar. Okay, I'm going to start right here in this chain here. It's going to be my first stitch. So you're going to start your yarn, and I'm going to chain 1. Now that chain 1 is going to kind of act like a slip stitch, so I'm not going to put anything else into that stitch. Now the next stitch, I'm going to put 2 triple crochets in. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and I'm going to put 2 triple crochets into that next stitch. So there's 1, and there's 2. Now the next one, I'm going to put 1 triple crochet in. The next one will be 2 triple crochets into the same stitch there. And now the next one will be 1 triple crochet. Now we want to repeat this 2 triple crochet, 1 triple crochet over 19 stitches. So we've done 1, we don't count this first chain 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We worked it over 4 stitches. So the next one will be 5, and since this was 1 triple crochet, it'll be 2 triple crochets. And the 6th one is 1 triple crochet. And the next one will be the 7th stitch, and we're going to put 2 triple crochets into that stitch. And the 8th stitch will be 1 triple crochet. And then the 9th stitch will be 2 triple crochets. I'm just going to keep going with this until I get to the end. I hope I don't bore you. That way no one gets confused. Now, the 10th stitch is going to be 1 triple crochet. Remember, we're working over 19. The 11th stitch will be 2 triple crochets. The 12th stitch, 1 triple crochet. 13th stitch, 2 triple crochets. Fourteenth stitch, 1 triple crochet. 15th stitch, 2 triple crochets. 16th stitch, 1 triple crochet. 17th stitch, 2 triple crochets. 18th stitch, 1 triple crochet, and now the 19th stitch is going to get 2 triple crochets in it. Now what we want to do is put 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1 double crochet into the next, and then 1 double crochet into the next, and then I'm going to put 4 single crochets, 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. So single, 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 single. So I'm going to single crochet into the next 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 double in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 double, and then 1 double in the next. And now we're going to start our triple crochet over the next 19 stitches. So the first one is going to get 2 triple crochets in the same stitch. And the next one will be 1 triple crochet. And the third one will be 2 triple crochets. And the fourth one, 1 triple. And the fifth one is 2 triples. Now we're going to repeat this 2 triple, 1 triple, 2 triple, 1 triple until we get over here to the very last stitch. Okay, when you come to the end and you've worked that triple crochet in one and 2 triple crochets in the next over 19 stitches, you should have 1 stitch that remains here. And sometimes it's kind of tight because it was our starting stitch where the knot is. You might have to loosen it up a bit. But you should have ended there with 2 triple crochets into the second to the last stitch, and then the last stitch we're going to slip stitch. And like I said, it's a little tight. I loosened mine up a bit already. We'll go ahead and slip stitch like that and pull that off, and then flip your yarn. Now let's look and see what we got now for the collar. should flip right over. Just like that. Pretty cute so far. Now we gotta work a little bit on the sleeves. Okay. Now both sleeves are worked the exact same way. So I went ahead and did one. I'm gonna show you what it looks like there. So it's got the same edging as the bottom does. So it matches up. So you just work it both the same. And it's pretty easy. So we'll just go ahead and get started. The hardest part is probably finding your stitches here in the beginning. So get your work faced up here, and I'll show you what we're going to do. I'm starting with my purple. Now when you look at your sleeve hole here, you see this double crochet right here on the side. Go right kind of in between that. And that's where we're going to start our first stitch. So we're going to chain one. Now we're going to go right back in to that same spot and double crochet. Oops. I half doubled. Go right back into it and double. Okay. Now when we open it up and look here again, we want to go into this next spot right here. Double. And if you feel like it'd be more secure, you can go down here and grab this one. So we'll double there. Now we're going to double in between these next two double crochets. See these right here? This one and this one? Double right in between them. And then we're going to go to the next two double crochets and double crochet right in between them. So you can slide it over. So double in between these two. Just go right through them and double crochet. Okay. The next spot, we're going to double right in between these two. Let me hold it up so you can see it. Right here in this hole here, right in between that double crochet. Go right through it and double. Now we're going to work our way around. We're going to double crochet right here into this hole right here. And then we're going to double crochet into the side of this double crochet, just like we did before. So kind of just wiggle your hook in there. Double crochet in the side of it. There we go. Now we're going to work around, working one double crochet in the remaining stitches. So we'll go into this one right here. And every stitch around, you should be able to see the stitches now until you get back to the beginning. You make it back around to the beginning, you should have a total of 28 stitches now when you did your last stitch. So here is where we started. We did the chain one and the double crochet. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first double crochet. And remember, you should have 28 stitches now. Now what we're going to do is chain one, go right back into the same stitch and double crochet. And we're going to work one double crochet in every stitch around. Oops, sorry about moving my camera there. So I'm going to continue working around two of the sleeves, one double in every stitch. I'll just continue to the end here because I'm almost there. Well, I guess I'm halfway there, but I'll just keep going. Okay. Now when you make it to the end of the round 2 of the sleeves, you still should have 28 stitches. And all I'm going to do is slip stitch into my first double crochet, slip stitch into that first double to end round 2 of the sleeve, and then all I'm going to do is repeat that round one more time. So I'll chain 1, go right back in, double crochet in the same stitch, and 1 double crochet in every stitch around, back to the beginning. And when I get to the end of round 3 of the sleeves, I still should have my 28 double crochets. I've made it around to the beginning, and that is my 3rd row of the sleeves. I have 28 stitches. Go ahead and end with the slip stitch into your first double crochet. Now I'm going to clip this off. Now if you want your sleeves to be a little longer, you can continue with more rows, but I just did the 3 rows. But now I'm going to start with my white, and I'm going to start right there in that same stitch that I just ended in. And I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go right back into the same stitch and single crochet. Now I'm going to work around putting 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around until I get back to the beginning. And I'm going to hide those tails as I go so I don't have to sew them in. So 1 single crochet now, this will be round 4 of the sleeves, all the way around until you get back to the beginning. And when you get back to the beginning, you should still have 28 stitches. Okay, I've made it back around. I got my 28 single crochets. I'm going to slip stitch into the first one, and now I'm going to do those little side clusters like we did at the bottom. So I'm going to start off by chaining 1 and going right back into that same stitch and doing a double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 3. Now remember, this first one that we do, we have to go in between we have to go around the double, not around this chain 1. So we go right in between the chain 1 and the double, and we're going to work 5 double crochets around the post. And there's 5. Now instead of skipping 4 like we did below on the bottom edging, we're only going to skip 3 this time. So 1, 2, 3, and then the next one we're going to put a double crochet and chain 3 and work our 5 double crochets around the post. Like that, and we'll skip 3 again, skip, 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 double crochet into the next, chain 3 and work 5 double crochets around the post. So it's the same as we did on the bottom. The only difference is we're skipping 3 in between these little side shells this time. So I'm going to continue working this pattern until I get back around to the beginning. Okay, when you make it to the end, you should have 3 stitches left to skip, and then remember we need to slip stitch into the top of the double. And since it's going to be kind of hard to find, I just slip stitch right through this hole here. No one's going to be able to tell that it's not the double. Go ahead and tie that off. Clip your yarn. Now remember, both sleeves are done the same, so I'm going to go ahead and hide all my tails because I have my other sleeve done. So I'm going to go hide all these tails real quick. A couple more things before I'm finished. Now I'm going to take my yarn needle and a little bit of white, and I'm going to just put a couple little stitches in the collar so it doesn't flip up while the child's wearing it. So just get your white yarn and just wherever, you know, just to kind of make it stay down a little bit more, I'm going to go through. I'll probably do it down here at the base of the stitch. And I'm going to go through. Let me come at it from the behind. Like that. And then back around to the other stitch. I'm just going to put a couple of these. It's not going to be noticeable, and then it'll hold it down. And then if I don't want the white to show from the other side, just go halfway, like through the stitch like that, and then go back up again and grab another little part of the bottom of the stitch, like right here, and go over a little bit just to catch it, just to hold it there. And that'll be enough for that one. And then I'm going to hide that tail by just kind of weaving it in the purple, but in between it so the white doesn't show. So I'm kind of going halfway through the stitches, if that makes any sense. I'm not going all the way through, that way the white won't show through to the other side. Well, it won't show through that bad anyways. So I'm just going to put a little stitch there to hold that down, and then I'll probably do it right over here too. And if you want to put one in the back too, I might do that. So what you just saw, I'm going to do it right here on the same side, and then I'm going to do it right here on the back. That way it holds the collar down and the collar won't flip up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera real quick. What I'm going to do now is, this is completely optional, you don't have to do this. I have this ribbon here, the ribbon that I showed you in the beginning, and I'm going to weave it on the 6th row. If you count down one, I haven't got all this sewed up yet, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th row, and if you look at it, it's a little bit gappy from putting them puff stitches through there. So I'm going to weave a ribbon through there. So I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to follow this little dip down in the collar to about the center. So right about there, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's where I'm going to start it. And all I'm going to do, it's a little time consuming, is weave it though over and under every other stitch. And I'm going to do this all the way around. If you feel this ribbon is too big, you can get a smaller ribbon. But I'm going to do this over and under every stitch. All the way around here. All the way around the back. And then back over here until I get back to my starting point. Over and under, all the way around. And now I'm just going to tie a bow here to where it's kind of in the center of my collar there, the small part of the collar. I'm not the greatest at tying bows, but I do my best, which sometimes isn't very good. But I'll work on that a little bit better later. I know some people can just tie a bow like it's nothing and it looks so perfect. I really got to work on mine, and it still looks like crud half the time. More than half the time. Well, anyways, once you get your bow tied, you can cut your ribbon to the desired length if you want to leave it long or short. That's up to you. Leave mine a little bit longer hanging. Okay, and then if you want to add a ribbon rose, you can sew that on with a regular thread and needle. I'm not sure what color I'm going to use, but for tutorial purposes, I'll probably just hot glue mine on. It'll probably never ever come off because hot glue and yarn sticks together. But since you're going to be using this, if you're going to be using it for a baby, I'd probably recommend maybe sewing it on. But I mean, you can use your best judgment on that. But if you want to put it on, I'll be doing it right here underneath the short part of the collar. And then you use your thread and needle to sew on the hook and eye closure to the back. So I'm going to get my ribbon sewed on. My ribbon rows are put on and everything. My tail's hidden, I got my ribbon on, and I got my ribbon rows, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Maybe give this video a like and a share. And also check out my other tutorials. I have hundreds of them. And until next time, have a good day. Hi everybody, this is Crystal. Today I'm going to show you how to make this baby dress. It probably fits sizes 0 to 6 months, and this is the only size that I have available at the moment. In addition to the yarn that I mentioned, you're also going to need a hook and eye closure to hook up the back, 1 or 2 of these that you need to sew on with the regular thread and needle. And you're going to need some ribbon roses too if you decide to put them on. That's completely up to you. But let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, for this project, I am using Red Heart Fashion Soft, which is a lightweight, number 3, 100% acrylic yarn. It's really soft. It's nice. There are 381 yards per skein. And the color I am using is Artichoke, and I'm also using another one, Cream, which I'm going to be using for the edging. So one skein will be enough to make the dress, and then you'll need another one for some edging on it. And then I'm going to be using a size H, which is a 5mm crochet hook. And you want to start off with a chain of 56. And once you get your chain of 56, what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook. And remember, we never count the one that's on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, in the 4th one, we're going to put a double crochet. Just like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every single stitch for the length of the chain. So just like that, all the way to the end of the chain. And when you get to the end, you should have a total of 54 stitches, and that is counting this little guy here on the end. This little chain thing here, he counts as a stitch. So 54 when you get to the end, counting this little guy. Okay, when you make it to the end of the row and you count it and you have your 54 stitches and counting this little chain here on the end, what you want to do is chain 1 and turn your work. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 double crochet right back here in the very first stitch, the same stitch, like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So there's 2 double crochets we did in a row. Now the next stitch is going to get 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So there's 1. I'm going to go back in it and put another. Just like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches again. So you have 2 in a row again. So there's 1 and 2, and then the next stitch I'm going to put 2 double crochets into the same stitch, and that's our increase stitch, like that. Again, 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 1 in the next, and then the next one is going to be 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So we're just going to repeat this pattern until we get to the end of the row. 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 double, 1 double, 2, 1 double, 1 double, 2, all the way to the end. And when you get to the end, you should have a total of 72 stitches. Okay, I'm coming to the end of the row, and I just did my 2 double crochets in a row, and then I'm going to end it right here in this little chain thing. It's going to have 2 double crochets into that last stitch. So your last stitch is this chain thing, and it should have 2 double crochets in it. just right in the top of it. Oops, I didn't get it. Try that again. So right here into the top of it. There we go. So there's 1 and 2. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. And remember, you should have 72 stitches at the end of that row. And now we're going to start the row 3. And we're going to put 1 double crochet right back into that same stitch. Like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2. So counting that first double crochet, now we have 3 double crochets in a row. And now the next stitch is going to get 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So that's going to be our increase stitch. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1. Here's 2 and 3, and then the next stitch is going to get 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So there's 1 and 2, and I'm just going to kind of repeat that pattern to the end of the row. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3, and then 2 double crochets into the next. Just like that. 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1 double, 1 double, 1 double, and then 2 doubles into the next. 1 double into each of the next 3, and 2 doubles to the next. All the way to the end of the row. And when you get to the end of the row, you should have a total of 90 stitches at the end of row 3. Okay, once you make it to the end and you counted and you have 90 stitches, you should have ended with 2 double crochets in that last stitch. What you want to do is chain 1 and turn, and we'll start row 4 by putting 1 double crochet right back here into that same stitch. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So counting that first double crochet, we have 4 double crochets in a row. And now we're going to put 2 double crochets into the next stitch. Like that. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next. So that is the repeat for round 4. 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next. So you just want to repeat that pattern until you get to the end of the row. 1 double crochet into the next 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next. Repeat that to the end of the row, and when you get to the end of the row, you should have 108 stitches at the end of row 4. Okay, once you make it to the end of your row, you should have ended in 2 double crochets again in the same stitch there, and have 108 stitches. Now we're going to connect our piece. So what we're going to do is just going to take it, and we're going to come over here, and we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of row 4. just like that. Now our piece is connected. And now I'm going to start saying rounds instead of rows, since we'll be going in rounds. So now I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to turn my work, because we still want to work in the back and forth rows. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 1 double crochet right here in this very first stitch. So right there. Like that. And I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So counting in that first double crochet that we did, we have 5 double crochets. And now I'm going to put 2 double crochets into the next. So there's 1 and 2. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then 2 double crochets into the next. And that is going to be the repeat this time around. 1 double crochet in the next 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then 2 double crochets into the next. So you just want to repeat that pattern all the way around, back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it to the end, your last stitch should have 2 double crochets in it. And what we're going to do is go ahead and slip stitch into the first double crochet. Not that chain one we did. That chain one does not count as anything. The first double crochet. Like that. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work again. And you should have had 126 stitches at the end of that round 5. 4, 5. Now we're going to start the armholes. And what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 double crochet into the first 18 stitches. So right here, this first stitch, I'm going to put 1 double crochet in it. And I want to have 18 double crochets in a row. So that was 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's 18 double crochets I did. Now what I'm going to do is chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to skip 26 stitches. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Skip them. And in the next one, I'm going to double crochet with that chain 4 on my hook still. Just like that. So that is our first armhole. So there's 26 stitches there and a chain 4. Now I want to go ahead and do a double crochet into the next 38 stitches, counting this one as our first one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, once you got your 38 double crochets done, you're gonna chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and again we're gonna skip the next 26 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and then the next one with that chain 4 still on your hook, double crochet. Oops. Do that again. Like that. Now you should, counting this one, have 18 stitches left. And what you want to do is go ahead and double crochet in those remaining stitches. So remember, counting this one, you should have a total of 18 till you get to the end of the row. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, once you make it back around, you want to go ahead and end with the slip stitch to that first double crochet. And now you should have a total of 74 stitches. That's not counting these sleeves. We'll work with them later. That's these 18 here, the 18 here, and the 38 in the front, and then you'll have your 2 chain 4 spaces. Now what you want to do is chain 1 and turn. You want to make sure the right side of your work is facing you now, like the back is open. This is the right side. If it's not, you want to make sure that it is. And now, turn my camera down a little bit. We'll start row 7 by, we're going to double crochet. We're going to do a V-stitch right here into this next stitch. So we're going to double crochet into it, and then we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to go back into it and do another double crochet. So that's how we're going to be making our V stitches. A double crochet, a chain 3, and a double crochet. Now I'm going to skip 1 stitch, and I'm going to V stitch into the next. So I'm going to double crochet, chain 3, go back in it and double crochet again. Like that. I'm going to skip 1 and do a V into the next. So I'm going to double crochet, chain 3, and double crochet. Like that. And by putting them this close together, it should make the link, make it more gathered and the dress more roughly looking. So I'm going to skip 1 and V-stitch into the next. That way it gives the dress a little bit of body and it's not so flat. Like that. Skip 1 and V-stitch in the next, and we're just going to repeat this until we get to our first chain 4 space. So I'm going to finish these out and I'll meet you right here at this chain 4 space. Okay, when you make it to your first chain 4 space, all I'm going to do is work 2 V-stitches through the space. So I'm going to, when I came to this end here, I had 1 stitch left. You skip it, and then I'm going to work there's 1 V-stitch, and then I'm going to do another one. 1, 2, 3, and like that. Oh, dropped that one, didn't I? Try that again. Like that. So now you got 2 V-stitches in there. Kind of push them together like that. Now I'm going to start again with my first stitch, making a V-stitch in it. And skipping the next stitch, working a V-stitch into the next, skip in the next, and then the V-stitch into the next, and I'm going to repeat this again across the front here until I get to my next chain 4 space. Like that, skip, V-stitch, skip, V-stitch into the next, just like that. So go ahead and repeat that across the front of your dress until you get to your next chain 2 space, or chain 4 space, I'm sorry. Okay, when you make it to your next chain 4 space, again you'll have this 1 stitch here that you skip, and just go ahead and put 2 V-stitches through the chain 4 space. So there's 1, and 2, and you can kind of make them the right shape. I guess it doesn't really matter, but then we start right here again in the first stitch with a V-stitch, and then we skip 1, and then we V-stitch in the next, and we're just going to repeat this same pattern until we get to the end of the round. Skip 1, V-stitch into the next, just like that, until we get back over here to the beginning. Okay, once you make it back to the end, you should have 41 V-stitches right now, counting all of them, including the 2 that we did on each sleeve. And now we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet of our first V-stitch. We're not going to turn our work anymore now. No more turning. Like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch right over here to the first chain 3 space. And now I'm going to chain 1. And I am going to work 5 double crochets through this space. So it's going to be a shell. I'm going to work a shell. It's going to be 5 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like that. And now what I'm going to do is jump to the next one and work a shell again. 5 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, I'm going to jump to the next one and work 5 double crochets into the chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to work 5 double crochets or a shell in every single one of these chain 3 spaces, or the middle of the V-stitch, all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's what it kind of starts to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and put my shell, or my 5 double crochets, in every one of these 41 V-stitches. Remember, when you get to this arm space here where we did the 2, kind of push the V-stitches together so you can see the spaces. But I'm going to go ahead and do that, and when I get back around to the beginning, I should have 41 shells. Okay, when you make it back around, what you want to do is slip stitch into your first double crochet right here. Not that chain 1, but the first double crochet. Like that. And now we're kind of just going to be repeating those 2 rows. What we're going to do is slip stitch over 2 times, until you get to the middle stitch of the shell. So 1, 2, and that brings me into the middle. That's what you want. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do my V-stitch right back into that same spot. So I'm going to double crochet, chain 3, and double crochet again, like that. And then I'm going to skip these 4 stitches and V-stitch into the next, which is actually the middle stitch of the next shell. V-stitch, double crochet, chain 3, and double crochet, like that. And again, I'm going to skip 4 stitches, so you'll be skip, 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 and in the next one, which is the middle stitch of the next shell, V-stitch again. And that's the repeat this time around. It's really easy. Skip 4 and V-stitch into the next stitch, which is the middle of the next shell. And I'm just going to repeat this all the way around. And that's what it kind of starts to look like. And when you get back around, you still should be having your 40, 41 V-stitches. Skip 4 and V-stitch into the next. Just like that. So I'm going to repeat this all the way back around to the beginning. Okay, when you make it back around, again, we're just going to slip stitch into our first double crochet, and it's just we're going to be repeating those 2 rows. So we're going to slip stitch over into the chain 3 space, chain 1, and then we're going to shell stitch, or the 5 double crochets, right here into this space. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then jump to the next space and shell stitch again. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So it's just a repeat of the V-stitch row and the shell stitch row. So it's pretty easy. I apologize if I get out of camera. I'm looking straight into the camera and I can't see what I'm doing when I do that because the camera's right in front of me. So in order for me to see what I'm crocheting, I have to look over the top of the camera, and then I tend to pull it up in front of it. I don't mean to do that. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I just can't look into the camera and see what I'm doing. I have to look over the camera, and then it tends to pull up, and I never mean to do that. Like that. And that's what it starts to look like. So I'm just going to keep repeating the rows of V-stitches and the shell stitches, just back and forth, until I get the length that I want my dress to be. Okay, you want to work for a total of, from the top down, 19 rounds. So starting with number 1, count all the way down to number 19. And 19 should be a V-stitch row. So after that, I just went ahead and ended my row like normal. I slip stitched into my first double crochet, and then I tied off. And now I'm going to switch colors to my edging color. So I'm going to go ahead and start my yarn right here in this, where I left off, in this chain 3 space. And I'm going to do a shell with a picot on it in this space. So I'm going to chain 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 3 double crochets all into this space. So there's 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to put a picot on this one. So I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to come right back down. I always go slip stitch right into the side of this right there, and then the side of this stitch. Slip stitch that, and that's going to put a little point on the top of it, like that. And then I'm going to go back into the same chain space and do 2 more double crochet. So what I did was the shell, but I put a picot in the middle one. So it's 5 double crochets all together, but there's a picot on the third one. So now what I'm going to do is single crochet right here in between the space of the V stitches. So just like right through here, I'm just going to put 1 single crochet. Now I'm going to jump over to the next chain 3 space in the next V stitch here, and I'm going to do the shell picot again. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and now I'm going to chain 3, and then some people for a picot they'll slip stitch into the very first chain. I like to go down and slip stitch kind of in the side of the stitch like that. I think it holds it better, but you can do it, and if you learned it a different way, that's fine, like that. And then go ahead and do 2 more doubles, and that'll make a total of 5 doubles for our shell with the picot. And then I'm going to go right in between the next 2 V's right here and single crochet. So this is the pattern. I'm going to cut that tail that I'm going to repeat all the way around. So the next one is going to be a shell with the picot right in the V stitch or in the chain 3 space. So I'm going to do 3 doubles, and then I'm going to do a picot on this one. 1, 2, 3. I come back down and I grab the side stitch and then this side stitch like that, and slip stitch. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more doubles to finish that off, just like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and single crochet right here in between the 2 V stitches, like that. Shell picot in the next V stitch. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, come back down, slip stitch, 2 more doubles, 2, and then I'm going to go and single crochet. And you just want to repeat that same pattern all the way around. And then when you get back around here to the beginning, which I already went around, I just did my last shell picot, and I want to go ahead and single crochet right between these last 2 V's, like that. And then I'm going to slip stitch here in my first double crochet, not the chain 1 but the first double, and I'm going to tie that off, clip my yarn, and hide my tails, which I'll do that in a little bit. Now we're going to work on the sleeves, which I already have one of them done, and they're really easy. So I'm going to go back to my green yarn that I was using. Oh, I slung the hook across it. Okay, I'll show you how we're going to start here. Okay, we're going to start our yarn. Now both sleeves are going to be made the same way. Okay, pull your sleeve up, like here's the little crease area where we did the chain 4. We're going to start, and here's our stitches. We're going to start right here in the side of this double crochet. Right there. So I'm just going to go right through that whole space and start my yarn. And I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to go right back into that same place, same space, and put 1 double crochet. And now I'm going to put a double crochet right here into this next space. And and then I'm going to do a double. Now right here is the chain 4, and remember we put 2 V-stitches in there, so you want to get your V-stitches kind of put together. There's one of them, and there's the other. I'm going to do my next double crochet right here. Here's where I did my last one. I'm going to do my next one right here beside this V-stitch. It's actually kind of upside down now, like right there. And I'm going to do my next one between these 2 V-stitches. So here's one, here's the other. I'm going to go right here in between them. And then I'm going to do my next one on the other side of this one, so you can pull it over. So it's going to go right there. And then I'm going to put 1 double crochet right here in this next space. And then 1 right here into the side of this double crochet that's on the other side. Just like that. And now I'm just going to work across. You'll be able to see the stitches better now. Putting 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around until you get back around to your first double crochet. And remember, both sleeves are done the same, so I'm just going to show you how to do this one. Go ahead and work 1 double crochet in every stitch around the sleeve here until you get back over here to where we started. And you should have a total of 35 stitches when you make it back around. Okay, I've made it all the way around on my first round of the sleeve. And like I said, you should have 35 stitches, and I do. So now I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first double crochet like that. And now we're going to do a row of decreases. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to put 1 double crochet right back there into the same stitch. And I want to work 3 double crochets in a row, and then I'm going to do a double crochet decrease. So this is number 1, so I'm going to put a double crochet in the next stitch, that'll be 2, and then a double crochet into the next stitch, that'll be 3 in a row. And now I'm going to do a double crochet decrease, and that is worked over 2 stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over, go into the next stitch and drop a loop, and yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So that took 2 stitches and made it into 1. Now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through all 3. 1 double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do a double crochet decrease again. I'm going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through all 3. So I'm just going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it all the way around, you should have ended in a decrease, and you should have a total of 28 stitches. And now you want to slip stitch into your first double crochet like that. And now we're going to do decreasing again. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to put 1 double crochet right back into that same stitch like that. And now we're going to do 5 double crochets in a row, and then we'll do a double crochet decrease. So that counts as 1, there's 2, 3, 4, and there's 5, and then we're going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2. Just like that. And again, 5 double crochets in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a double crochet decrease. And this is the pattern we're going to repeat this time around until we get back to the beginning. Okay, when you make it back around, you should have ended in a decrease again, and you should have 24 stitches. Now we're going to slip stitch into our first double crochet. And now I'm going to tie this off and clip my yarn. I'm going to switch colors here. Let's start with my edging color again. I'm just going to start right there in that same stitch that I ended in. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go right back into that same stitch, and I'm going to do a double crochet. Or I'm going to do a single crochet. I'm sorry. Now I'm going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. And now I'm going to do a picot on this stitch. So I'm going to chain 3. And then go back down and go right through it like that. And slip stitch. Like that. I'm going to do a single crochet in the next. And then I'm going to do a single crochet into the next. And a picot on this one. So chain 3. Go right back down. And slip stitch. That. Single crochet into the next. Single crochet into the next. And picot on this one. Chain 3. Go right back down and slip stitch. Single crochet into the next, single crochet into the next, and picot on this one. And this is the pattern I'm going to repeat all the way around. Single crochet, single crochet, and picot on this single crochet. So what you're doing is just a picot on every other stitch. And you want to do that all the way around to get back to the end. Okay, when you make it all the way around, your last stitch should have been a picot, and then you're just going to go ahead and slip stitch over here into your first single crochet. And then you should have a total of 12 of the picots around the sleeve. And I'm going to tie this off and hide my tail. And then remember, you do both sleeves the exact same. And then we'll go ahead and get started on the neck area. Okay, with your work facing you like this, the back side, we're going to work from here, and we're going to work around like this. So go ahead and grab your piece, and right here, this kind of first chain thing we did, that's going to be our first stitch. So what we're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to go right back into it and double crochet. Now what we want to do is 2 double crochets in a row and then a double crochet increase. So this counts as our first one. We're going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So it's 2 in a row, and then the next one is going to get 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Now we're working kind of backwards like this, so when the collar flips over, it'll be right side up. And then 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, so that's 1 and 2, and then 2 double crochets into the next. So there's 1 and 2. And we're going to repeat that all the way around the whole collar until we get back over here to the other side. It's kind of awkward, I guess, but 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then 2 double crochets into the next. 1 double crochet into the next 2. There's 1, 2, and 2 double crochets into the next. So I'm just going to repeat that all the way along here, the whole collar, till I get back over to here. And when I get back over to there, I should have 72 stitches. Okay, when you make it all the way here to the end, your last stitch should have 2 double crochets in it, and it's probably going to be this little knot here, very beginning stitch. It's going to be kind of tight. Kind of go right into that, and it should get 2 double crochets into it, like that. And now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work, so I'm going to start working the other way. And now what I'm going to do is put 1 double crochet right back into that same stitch. And now I'm going to work 3 double crochets in a row, so that counts as 1. Here's 2. And then 3. And then I'm going to do an increase, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2. So 3 double crochets in a row. Here's 1, 2, 3, and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. There's 1, 2. 3 double crochets in a row. There's 1, 2, 3, and then 2 double crochets into the next. And you want to repeat that all the way around until you get to back to the other side. Okay, when you make it down here to the other side, to where you have 4 stitches left, see I just put 2 double crochets in that stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet into the last 4 stitches. I'm not going to put 2 double crochets in that last stitch, which would actually finish out the repeat. I'm just going to put 1 like that. And now you should have a total of 89 stitches at the end of that row. And now I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now I'm going to do some picots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this very first stitch, and I'm going to single crochet into the next and picot on it. Chain 3, go back in, and like that. And I'm going to single crochet into the next, single crochet into the next, and picot in this one. So I'm going to chain 3, go back down and do my picot like that, single crochet into the next, single crochet into the next, and picot. This is just the same thing that we did along the edge of the sleeves. Single crochet into the next, single crochet into the next, and then picot. Single crochet into the next, single crochet into the next, and picot. So it's the same thing we did on the sleeves, and I'm just going to repeat this along this collar here like that until I get over here to the other side. Okay, when you make it to the end here, I just did my last picot and I have 1 stitch left here. I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch into that last stitch, and then I'm going to tie this off, and you should have 44 picots now across the collar. And I'm going to tie this off, and now we're done with the crocheting part. I'm going to hide all my tails, and then we're going to sew on some roses, and you got to sew on the hook and clasp on the back. Okay, once you get all your tails sewed in, you want to take this hook and clasp closure, and you just use a matching thread and a needle and sew it right up here. That's what I'm going to do. If you want to use a couple of them, you can. I'm probably just going to use one. And also, if you didn't have one of these, you could probably even use a button, I would imagine, and button it over here. But you just sew that on right back here. And then, if you want, this is optional, you can put ribbon roses on it, which I'm going to do. You could put them across the front if you want. However many you want. You could put 1, 3, however many if you want. Sew them on. Or you could actually use a low heat hot glue gun and hot glue them on, because that works really well with yarn. They probably will never come off if you hot glue them. I'm not going to say never, because if you have it on a baby, you still have to be careful with these roses. But otherwise, you could use the matching thread and sew them on real tight too, if you decide to use them. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff done real quick. Okay, once you get your ribbon roses sewed on, if you decided to use them, and your closure on the back, that's it. That's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, have a good day. Everybody, this is Crystal. Today I'm going to show you how to make this dress. I say it's size 0 to 6 months, and I don't have any other sizes figured out. This is the only one. Along with the yarn, you're going to need 3 ribbon roses if you decide to put them on, and 3 buttons here in the back. These are probably 1/4 inch buttons. I just use little white ones like that, but whatever you find, they're just little small buttons, and they're sewed on. You're going to need regular thread and needle. Okay, for this project, I am using, get it turned around here, Caron Simply Soft, which is just a medium weight 4-ply 100% acrylic. But you don't have to use this. You can use any type of 4-ply yarn that you have. The color I'm using is called Baby Sunshine. And then I'm also just going to use the same brand, just some regular white for the edging. And I'm going to be using a size G, which is a 4.25 millimeter crochet hook. Okay, you want to start off with a chain of 60. And once you get your chain of 60 made, we're going to do 1 double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook. And remember, we never count this when it's on our hook. So 1, 2, 3. In the 4th stitch, you want to do a double crochet. Just like that. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So actually you should have a total of 7, because we're counting this little chain here on the end as a double crochet, and then the one that you did in the 4th stitch from the hook plus the 5 you just did, so that's a total of 7. Now what you want to do is chain 2, 1, 2, and now we're going to do 1 double crochet in each of the next 14 stitches. So just go ahead and double crochet right into the next stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I just did my 14 double crochets in a row. Now I'm going to chain 2. And what I want to do is repeat that 2 more times. So I'm going to go ahead and double crochet again in the next 1 double crochet in the next 14 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 4. Okay, I did 14 double crochets again, so now I'm going to chain 2 and I'm going to repeat it again. So I want to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 14 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I just did 14 again, and now I'm going to chain 2. And now you should have 9 stitches left, and you want to go ahead and do 1 double crochet in the last 9 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you should have a total of 58 double crochets at the end of row 1, counting this little chain on the end. And then you'll have 4 chain 2 spaces. So that's kind of what it looks like so far. And now for row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So chain 1 and turn. And you're going to put 1 double crochet right back into the very first stitch right there. Double crochet. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet in the next 8 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're at the chain 2 space, and every chain 2 space is going to get the same thing. What it's going to get right through the chain 2 space, we put 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, and then we chain 2, 1, 2, and then right back into that same chain 2 space we're going to put 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2, just like that. And now we're going to work across, and we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches until we get to our next chain 2 space. 1, oops, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I just did my 14 across, and I'm at my next chain 2 space. So what I'm going to do is do right through the space 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 more doubles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat what we just did 2 more times again. So I'm going to go across and put 1 double crochet in each of these 14 stitches, and then I'll be at my chain 2 space, and I want to put 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 doubles, and then I'm going to repeat it again, 1 double crochet in each of the next 14, and then I'll be at my chain 2 space, and we'll want to put 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 doubles. Okay, I just did my last 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in this last corner. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in these last 7 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and remember this chain right here on the end counts as our 7th one, our last one. Just go right into the top of it, and this will end row 2, and you should have a total of 74 stitches at the end of this row, and you'll also still have your 4 chain 2 spaces. So for row 3, we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn our work. Sorry, I gotta keep unwinding my yarn. It got all tangled up on me. Okay, now you want to go ahead and put 1 double crochet right back into the exact same stitch. Like that. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and now we're at our chain 2 space. So what we're going to do is do our 2 doubles right through the space, our chain 2, and 2 more doubles all into that chain 2 space. Just like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the next 18 stitches now. So it's 18 across until you get to your next chain 2 space. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It across there with those 18 stitches, and I'm at my next chain 2 space, so I'm just going to do my right through the space 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 more doubles through that space. And now I'm just going to repeat this 2 more times. So it's 1 double crochet in these next 18 stitches until you get to the next chain 2 space, and that's where you put your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 double crochet in the next 18 again until you get to your next chain 2 space, and you do your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles. Okay, I repeated that twice. So I just did this last 18, and then I'm at my last chain 2 space, and I did my 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles. Now I want to go ahead and finish this row by putting 1 double crochet in the last 11 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Just like that, and that'll end row 3, and you should have a total of 90 stitches now, and we will still have the 4 chain 2 spaces. So for row 4, we're just going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start again by putting 1 double crochet right back into the same stitch. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next 12 stitches until I get to my next chain 2 space here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then I'm at my chain 2 space. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 doubles, a chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, sorry, I wrote it down so I knew how many stitches, so I'm trying to read it. I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the next 22 stitches across here until I get to my next chain 2 space, and then that's where I'll put my 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and I'm going to repeat that 2 times, so there'll be 22 stitches here to your next chain 2 space, and you'll get your 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and then there'll be 22 stitches here until your next chain 2 space. Okay, I made it here to my last chain 2 space, and I went ahead and did my 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 doubles, and then you should have 11 stitches remaining, and I just went ahead and double crocheted across my 11 remaining stitches. So I'm on number 9, here's 10, and 11, and now we'll end row 4, and you should have a total of 106 stitches at the end of this round, and you'll still, of course, have your 4 chain 2 spaces. Now we're going to start row 5 by chaining 1 and turning our work. We're going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet right back into the same stitch, like that, and then we're going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in the next 12 stitches across here until we get to our chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm at my first chain 2 space, and I'm just going to do my 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 more doubles into that same chain 2 space. And now what we're going to do is we'll have 26 stitches across here until I get to my next chain 2 space, and then I work my 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and I just repeat that 2 more times. So 26 across here to my next chain 2 space, and then 26 again until I get to my last chain 2 space. Okay, I made it to my last chain 2 space there, and now you should have 15 stitches remaining, and you want to go ahead and double crochet in those last 15. Okay, I just did the 15 across, and you should have a total of 122 stitches, and that will end row 5. And now we're going to form the armholes. So we're going to start row 6 by chaining 1 and turning our work. So row 6 is the armhole row. It sounded funny. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start by putting 1 double crochet right back into that same stitch, just like we normally been doing. And now we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 16 stitches until we get to our next, or till we get to our first chain 2 space. So there should be 16 now. There's 1, not counting that first one, 2, 3. Okay, once you make it to your first chain 2 space, we're going to do something a little different here because it's the armhole row. We're just going to work 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. So just 2 doubles right into that space. 1 and 2. Now we're going to skip all these stitches until we get to the next chain 2 space. There should be 30 to skip. So skip all 30 of these. And when you come over to your next chain 2 space, and just put 2 double crochets in it. So I kind of just fold it over like this and yarn over and go right into that space and double crochet 2 times. So there's 1 and chain 2, and that is the first armhole formed. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in the next 30 stitches. This is like the front of it, of the dress. So 1 double in the next 30 stitches until you get to your next chain 2 space. So there's 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did my 30 double crochet across and I made it to my next chain 2 space. So I'm going to go ahead and put just 2 double crochets in to the chain 2 space. So there's 1 and 2, and now we're going to skip these 30 stitches and we're going to go to the next chain 2 space, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. 1, 2, and that is our second armhole formed right there. And now we're just going to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in these last 15 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get the 15 done there, that'll end row 6. I'm going to end my row 6 here, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to slip stitch in the third. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I ended. I'm going to come over to this next half, so you place your piece like that, and I'm going to slip stitch in the third stitch over. So here's, this one's 1. This counts as 1 because it has that chain 1 on the end. So there's 1, 2, slip stitch in this third one. I know this one kind of looks like it's funny because it has that chain 1, but that big thing is just counts as 1. So 1, 2, slip stitch into the third one, and that will end, oops, row 6. So once you slip stitch into this here, you should have a total of 68 stitches. Not counting these 2 here, we're not going to work in these 2 anymore. So 68, counting, starting from the one you slip stitched into all the way around here. Not counting these armholes, but all the way around the front, all the way back to the beginning. Not counting either armhole or not counting these 2, you'll have a total of 68 stitches. So it has a little bit of a flap over, and you can see it when you pull it out like that. That's going to be, we're going to put the buttons here, and they'll hook to this little bit of a flap over. So if yours is supposed to have a flap over like that, 2-stitch flap over. You can see it here, 1, 2, and that's where we'll put the buttons later, and that'll hook it together all the way down. So that's normal. Now we're going to start round 7, because now we're going to work in rounds. And we're going to start by chaining 1. Now we're going to be working V-stitches, and I'm going to do, or this row will have a row of V-stitch increases. So what I'm going to do is chain 1. Now in this very first stitch that we slip stitched, we're not working in these 2 anymore. Never again. We're not going to work in these. Those are just the flap over. We're going to work in the one that we slip stitched into. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to do a V-stitch increase. So I'm going to put a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, go back into the same stitch, do another double crochet, chain 1, and go back into the same stitch and do another double crochet. And that is how I'm doing a V-stitch increase. You can see now there's 2 V-stitches together. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch, and in the next stitch I'm just going to do a regular V-stitch. So I'm going to skip this one, and in this one I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, and go back into the same stitch and double crochet. And that is just a regular V-stitch. Just like that. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'll do a V-stitch increase into the next. So skip this one, and then this one I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 1, go back in it and do a double crochet, chain 1, go back one more time, double crochet. So that's like you got 2 V-stitches together. And now I'm going to put a regular V-stitch. I'm going to skip this stitch and put a regular V-stitch in the next. So I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, go back into the same stitch and double crochet. And now it's a V-stitch increase into the next. After you skip this one, V-stitch increase into this, so it's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, like that. V-stitch increase. Now we're going to skip one and do a regular V-stitch into the next, so skip and then a regular V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So that's kind of the repeat the whole way around. Skip one, V-stitch increase into the next, so double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now I'm gonna skip one, skip this one, regular V-stitch into the next, double, chain 1, double, it's regular V, skip one, and then we V-stitch into the next, so skip this one, V-stitch in, V-stitch increase into the next, so skip this one, V-stitch into this one, V-stitch increase into it, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And now we just keep repeating it. Skip this one, regular V into the next, skip this one, V-stitch increase into the next. So it's just every other is an increase. That. Skip this one, regular V, skip this one, and V-stitch increase. So I'm just going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Okay, once you make it around, you should have ended in just a regular V-stitch, not an increase. And you'll have one stitch left. And there's your little flap that'll flap over, so don't mind this flap. We'll do something with that later. Go ahead and slip stitch into your very first double crochet of the very first V-stitch. And you should have a total of 17 V-stitch increases and then 17 of the regular V-stitches. Now we're just gonna kind of do a repeat of the row I'm getting ready to do. So we're gonna start by slip stitching over into the first chain 1 space. Now we're not going to do any more V-stitch increases. It's only going to be regular V-stitches from now on. So we're going to start by chaining 1, going right back into that same space, chain 1 space, and doing a regular V-stitch. So it's a double crochet, chain 1, and another double crochet. And then I'm going to go to the next chain 1 space right here and do another V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then I'm going to find the next chain 1 space, which is right here in this V-stitch, do a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then the next chain 1 space right here, do a V-stitch, the next chain 1 space right here, do a V-stitch, The next chain 1 space is right here in the middle of this V-stitch. Do a V-stitch, and we're just going to repeat this all the way around. It's just a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch. So there'll be one here, one. Okay, when you make it back around, you just go ahead and you slip stitch into your first double crochet, like that, and that'll end that round. Now to start a new one, you just slip stitch over to your first chain 1 space, and then you start again, repeating. You chain 1 and do a V-stitch into the first V-stitch space. Oh. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then you jump to the next V-stitch and V-stitch. So it's just repeating the row we just did. V-stitch and in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch. Jump to the next one. Just like that. And you just keep repeating that last row, and you should have 51 of these V-stitches at the end of every round now. And you want to do that for a total of, I went ahead and did that. From the very first row of V-stitches where we did the increases, you want to do, counting that row as number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rows total. Or if you want to count from the very first row of number 1, it's 19 rows total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And now I'm going to work on the edging. So at the end of that last round, and you slip stitch into your first double crochet, just go ahead and tie that off. So clip it and tie it. Okay, I'm going to start my yarn right here in the space, chain 1 space of that last V-stitch that I stopped in, and I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to do a double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do another double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to do that till I have 4 double crochets. Again, I'm going to double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to do a double crochet. So what I have is 4 double crochets, and then I got 3 of the chain 1 spaces. And now I'm going to do that in every single one of these V-stitch spaces. So I'm going to jump to the next one. I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So that was 4 doubles with 3 chain 1 spaces. And I'm going to jump to the next one and do it again. Chain 1 space, go ahead and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Like that, and that's what I'm going to do in every single one of these V-stitches. Sorry, my yarn came out in a knot. There we go. So I'm going to jump to the next one and do it again. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, that's 2. That's 3, chain 1, and 4. Jump to the next one. There's 1, chain 1, 2, chain 1, 3, chain 1, and 4. And I'm going to work my way around doing that in every single one of the V-stitch spaces. And when I get back around, I should have 51 of these shells. Okay, once you make it around, what you want to do is go ahead and slip stitch into the first double crochet. Like that. Now each of these shells have 3 chain 1 spaces. So let's slip stitch over to the first one. Now I'm going to do a chain 1 and I'm going to single crochet into that space. Okay, now the next one is the middle one of this shell. I'm going to do a shell with a picot. So what I'm going to do is all in the same space, I'm going to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, another double crochet, and I'm going to do a picot on this one. So I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to slip stitch. I like to grab this side like that of the top of the stitch, and then slip stitch, and that makes a little picot on top. Now I'm going to do another double in that same spot, a half double, and a single, and that is the shell with the picot. And now what I'm going to do in this next space is single crochet like that. Now I'm going to jump over to the next chain 1 space and single crochet, and now I'm going to do my shell picot in the chain space here. So I'm going to single crochet, half double crochet, 1 double crochet, another double crochet. Now picot on this one, so I'm going to chain 3, go back and I grab the side stitches like that, and then I slip stitch right through it, and that'll form the picot. Now I'm going to do another double crochet, 1 half double crochet, and a single, all into that space, and that's the shell picot. Now I'm going to, in this next space here, the other chain 1 space of the same shell, I'm going to single crochet. And now I'm going to jump over here to the next shell here and do the same. So I'm going to single crochet into the first chain 1 space, and I'm going to shell picot into the next chain 1 space. So I'm going to single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 1 double, another double, chain 3 for the picot, go right back down and slip stitch right here to the side, and that will form the picot, maybe here. And then I'm going to do another double crochet and a half double crochet and 1 single crochet like that. And now there's another chain 1 space of this shell. I'm going to single crochet in it, and that is what I'm going to repeat all the way around. So this shell right here, I'm going to jump to the first chain 1 space, single crochet, shell picot into the next. So I'm going to chain 1, oops, 1 half double, 1 double, another double, a chain of 3 for the picot, go right back down to the top of the same stitch, slip stitch to form the picot, 1 more double, half double, and finish it with a single. And now there's 1 more chain 1 space of this shell. I'm going to single crochet in it. Now I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around by jumping to my next chain 1 space and single crocheting, and then I'll shell picot in this one, single in this one. Then I'll repeat it again by single in this one, shell picot, single, single in the first over here, shell picot, single, all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it to the end, I did the shell picot, and then I did single crochet in this chain one space. Now I'm just going to slip stitch right here in the first single crochet that we made. Not the chain one, but the single crochet. I'm going to clip that off. And that is done. And now we're going to work on the sleeves. Okay, for the sleeves, I'm going to start. I got one of them done already, but both sleeves are made the same. So you want to start with work facing you like this. And start with, I'm starting with the yellow yarn again. Okay, if you look at the sleeves, you'll see that there's these chain 2 spaces on both sides from the previous round. What you want to do is go through this one and this one, and I'm going to put a V-stitch. I'm going to V-stitch them together. So I'm going to put my yarn through both of them, and then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do a V-stitch right through both of them together. So I'm going to go through them both and double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now they're V-stitched together. Now what I'm going to do is skip the next stitch and V-stitch into the next. That's the only 2 that we crocheted together, was in chain 2 spaces. And I'm going to skip the next stitch and V-stitch into the next. And I'm going to do this all the way around. I'm going to skip the next and V-stitch into the next. So I'm just repeating this pattern all the way around. Skip and then V until I get around to the other side. Skip and V. Okay, when you make it back around, show you what we got here. You'll have 2 stitches left. We're just going to skip both of them. Don't put a V right here, just skip them. And you should have 15 V stitches all the way around. And now you kind of just take this one and you turn it and you slip stitch into that first double crochet. Once you get it turned around and slip stitch, it won't be so awkward looking. There we go. It's like that. Now what I'm going to do is slip stitch over into this first V-stitch, the chain 1 space, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to V-stitch right back into that same space. So double, chain 1, and double, and I'm going to work a V-stitch again in the chain space of every V-stitch. So I'm just going around again. So I'm going to jump to the next V-stitch and V-stitch in it. And then the next V-stitch, the chain 1 space, and V-stitch in it. And I'm just going to do this all the way around. And when I get back around, I still should have 15 V-stitches this round. So it's just a V-stitch in the chain 1 of every V-stitch, kind of like we did down here on the big part of the dress. Okay, now when you make it all the way around, we're just going to slip stitch into the first double crochet of the first V, and then tie that off, clip your yarn like that. So you did 2 rows of the V's for the sleeve. You could always do more if you wanted, but. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to do the shell picots on the sleeves too. So I'm going to start with my white yarn, and I'm just going to start in the chain 1 space of the first V, like this. And I'm going to start by chaining 1. Now what I'm going to do is single crochet in that space, half double, a double, 1 more double, and now I'm going to picot on this one, so I'm going to chain 3, go back and slip stitch right here into the side of it to form the picot. Now I'm going to go back and do a double, a half double, and a single. So just like we did down at the bottom. And now what I'm going to do is jump over to the chain one space at the next V and do it again by starting out with a single, a half double, one double, another double, and then picot on this one. So chain 3, go back in and slip stitch to form the picot, and then another double, a half double, and a single, just like that. Jump to the next B and start off again with the single crochet, doing these one in every one of the chain one spaces of the 15 V's. So you'll have 15 of these when you get back around. Okay, when you make it back around, you just want to go ahead and slip stitch into your first single crochet there, and that, go ahead and tie that off. Man, my yarn's just been splitting real bad on me today. Just like that, and then you remember you do both sleeves the exact same. So I'm going to go ahead and hide a few tails real quick. Once you get both sleeves done, I'm going to go ahead and put something around the front of my dress in white. I always do that to my dresses most of the time. If you've made my dresses before, you probably noticed I always have kind of something up in front. But what you want to do is lay your dress out like the back side facing you. And if you look, you'll see that there is this flap we made for buttons. The 2 stitch flap. And it's on this side. And that's where, and it's going to flap over because we're going to put our buttons here. So it's going to flap over and button. So we're going to start right here in this very stitch with the work facing the way that it is right now. Okay, I've made it to my next chain 2 space here, and again I'm just going to go right into the space and put 2 doubles. Oh, it's just awkward kind of, I guess, crocheting this way. Chain 2 and then 2 more doubles. It feels like I'm kind of crocheting backwards. And now I'm going to work. Make sure you pull this back and get this first one here. Right there. He hides sometimes. And I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. And then I'm at my next chain 2 space, so I'm going to do the same. 2 doubles. A chain 2. And then 2 more doubles in that same space. And now I'm going to work around again. Make sure you pull this out and get this very first one here. Putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. Okay, I'm at my next space here. 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 more doubles, and then pull it back here. Make sure you get that very first double crochet right there. 1 double crochet in every stitch here, and then when we get to the end of the row, we're going to leave 2 of them unworked for that flap to flap over. So there's 1 and 2. I gotta go do this last one, this one right here. So you want to leave these these last 2 stitches with no double crochet in them. That's so the flap can flap over on it. Now we're gonna chain 1 and turn our work, and we're gonna kind of just repeat that again. I'm gonna start with a double crochet right back into the same stitch. And now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to my first chain 2 space. My cat's meowing to get out. Okay, when you get to your chain 2 space, it's just the same. 2 doubles, chain 2, and then 2 more doubles. And then we work 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to the next chain 2 space. And that's where we work till the next chain 2 space right here. You work 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 double crochet in all these stitches to your next chain 2 space. 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 double crochet in every stitch until your next chain 2 space. 1 double or 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and then you work it 1 double crochet to the end. You make it to the end. You just want to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to do the same thing 1 more row. So I'm going to double crochet right back into that same stitch, and then I'm going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch except for the corners. Will be 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, and I'm going to do that all the way back around to the other side. Just like that. And when I get to each of my 4 corners, it'll be the 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and then it's always 1 for all the other stitches across. Once you made it back around, after that 3rd row, we still have these 2 right here that we left unworked the whole time. Just go clip your yarn, and then you can tie this off and hide that tail, and then we'll flip it over, and now you got a little kind of a bibby thing up here like that. Last thing you want to do is take your buttons and sew them on with a thread and needle. I sewed them on the top row, I skipped a row, next row, skipped a row, and then this row. And then all it does is you sew it on the side that you left it too blank. You didn't bring the white all the way over, and then they'll be able to button together with your flap like that. And I just use regular thread to do that. And then I sewed on 3 ribbon roses on the front, and that is optional if you want to do that. But that's it. That's all there is to it. Hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, have a good day. Okay, for this project, I am using Caron Simply Soft, which is just 100% medium weight 4-ply acrylic yarn. You don't have to use this brand. Any type of 4-ply yarn will work. And there are 315 yards in this skein. One skein will be enough to do 1 dress. And the color I'm using is Mango. And then I got some regular white for the edging. And then you're going to need either a button for the back or like one of these hook and eye closures. You sew these on with a regular thread and needle. They just sew on one side and they hook up on the other side. Or you could use a button if you don't have these, but that's to close the back of the dress. And I haven't decided yet, but maybe a ribbon rose if I decide to put that on. And you can sew that on with a thread and needle too. And I'm going to be using a size H, which is a 5mm crochet hook. And you want to check down below in the description for the written pattern, or for the link to the written pattern. Okay, we're going to start off with the slip knot on our hook with our main color here. And we're going to do a chain of 50. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, once you get your chain of 50 done, what you want to do is do a double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook. And we don't count the one that's on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, double crochet into that 4th stitch, like that. And now we're just going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. Just like that. So just continue putting 1 double in every stitch until you get to the end of the row. Okay, once you make it to the end of row 1, you should have a total of 48 stitches, and that is including this chain here on the end. That counts as a stitch. So 48 counting him. And now what we want to do for row 2 is we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. Now that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So what we're going to do, we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So that's going to be this one right here, not this very first one, because that double crochet is taking the place for that, or this chain 3 is taking the place of that stitch. So we're going to work right here into the next stitch, and we're going to put 1 double crochet into it. And now in the next stitch we're going to put 2 double crochets into the same stitch. That's going to be our increase stitch. So 2 doubles into the same stitch. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 double, 1 double. So we'll go ahead and do that. 1 double crochet into the next. 1 double crochet into the next. And in the next stitch we'll get 2 double crochets into the same stitch. One double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 double, 1 double into the next, and then 2 double crochets into the next, like that. And that is the pattern repeat for this row. It's 2 double crochets in a row, and then 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So 1 double, 1 double, 2, 1 double, 1 double, 2, all the way until you get to the end of the row. And when you get to the end of the row, you should have a total of 64 stitches at the end of row 2. Okay, I'm coming to the end of row 2, and I did my 2 double crochets in a row, and now my last stitch will get 2 double crochets into the same stitch, and that's going to be right here in the top of this chain here in the end. So go ahead and put 2 double crochets right there in that last chain on the end. And remember, you should have a total of 64 stitches at the end of row 2. Now to start row 3, we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. That chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet right here into the next stitch, not this very first one, but this next one, like that. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So counting that chain 3, we have 3 double crochets in a row. And now the next stitch we'll put 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So there's 1 and 2. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then 2 double crochets into the next, and then 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and then 2 double crochets into the next. And that's the pattern repeat for row 3. 3 double crochets in a row, and then 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So we got 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and then 2 in the same stitch. 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and 2 in the same stitch. And you want to repeat that to the end of the row, and you should have a total of 80 stitches when you get to the end of row 3. Okay, I'm coming to the end of row 3, and my last 2 stitches are going to go into the top of this chain 3. And remember, you should have a total of 80 stitches now at the end of row 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to connect our work now. So we're just going to kind of flip our work over like this. Instead of turning chain 3 and turning, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3 here, and that's going to connect our work like that. And now we're going to chain 3 and turn our work to start row 4. So we go ahead and chain 3 and turn just like that. Now what we're going to do is, so that chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So now we're going to do 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So counting that chain 3, we have 4 double crochets in a row. Now what we're going to do is 2 double crochets into the next stitch. 1 and 2. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 double crochets into the next. And that is a pattern for row 4, where I'll probably start saying rounds now because we're going to be working in rounds, or I might say rows too. It's hard telling what I'll say, but 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 double crochets in the next. So you're going to go ahead and repeat this all the way around until you get back to the beginning. And when you get back around, you should have a total of 96 stitches at the end of round 4. Okay, once you make it back around and at the end of row 4, and you have your round 4 and you have your 96 stitches, you should have 2 double crochets in your last stitch. And you look right here, it looks like a stitch should go there, but it's not. That's actually, that chain 3 went there. So 96 stitches, and then you want to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3, and then we will start our armholes now for row 5. And what we're going to do is chain 3 and turn our work. Oops. And turn. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches, starting with this next stitch right there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and that's 14. So you did 14 double crochets, and then you count that very first chain 3, so you got 15 double crochets in a row now. Now what you want to do is a chain of 2 like that, and now we're going to skip the next 19 stitches. So you just start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and you want to put a double crochet into the next one. So skip 19, put a double crochet in the next. So with that chain 2 still on your hook, you just yarn over and go into that next one and double crochet. And that is one armhole formed. Now we're going to put a double crochet into the next 28 stitches, counting this one as number 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I got my 28 stitches there done. Now what we're going to do is a chain of 2 again, and now we're going to skip the next 19 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then with the chain 2 on your hook, go ahead and double crochet into the next one. Like that, and that formed your second armhole. And then you want to go ahead and put 1 double crochet in the remaining stitches. Counting this one right here, you should have 15 left. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, once you make it to the end, what you want to do is go ahead and slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain 3. Now we are not going to be turning our work anymore. We're just going to be working round and round now. So what you should have after the end of that row 5 there, you should have a total of 58 stitches, and what that's counting is these stitches here and the ones in front and these stitches here. We're not counting these stitches of the armhole. So it should be 58 stitches, not counting the armholes. So just like right across here. And remember, we're not going to turn anymore. Get that on my hook. So for round 6, what we're going to do is chain 3, count as a double crochet. Now we're going to work 1 double crochet in these next 14 stitches up until we get to this chain 2 space. So 1 double crochet in each of them. Okay, once you get to this chain 2 space of the first armhole, you just want to go and put 2 double crochets right through the chain 2 space. So you just go right through it and put, there's 1 double and 2 doubles, like that. And then we're just going to continue along, putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to the next armhole. I apologize, my camera keeps focusing every time I move. I don't know why it's doing that. I've been trying to fix it every time I stop it, but it keeps doing it. I don't even have it set to autofocus, but it keeps still doing it. It's weird. Okay, so 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get to your next chain 2 space. When you get to your next chain 2 space, you just put 2 double crochets right through the space. And then you continue putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it all the way around, you want to end with a slip stitch into your first chain 3 there, into the top of it. And you should have a total of 62 stitches now at the end of round 6. So that's counting all these stitches here through the sleeve. We're still not counting these though. So now we're going to start the skirt part of the dress. So we're going to start with a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that chain 4 is counting as a double crochet and a chain 1. So we're going to go right back into the same stitch and double crochet. So what we kind of just did there was a V-stitch. We got the chain 3 that's acting as a double, and then the chain 1, and then another double crochet. So now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip the next stitch, and then the next stitch we're going to V-stitch. We're going to put a double crochet, a chain 1, and another double crochet in the same stitch. So that's the V-stitch. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip 1 stitch and V-stitch into the next. So that is the repeat this time around for round 7. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip 1 and V-stitch into the next. Like that. Chain 3, skip 1, V-stitch into the next. And you want to repeat this all the way around. Skip, or chain 3, skip 1, and V-stitch into the next. And when you get back around to the beginning, you should have a total of 31 of these V-stitches. So I'm going to continue all the way around. Okay, once you made it all the way around, you want to make sure you chain 3 after your last V-stitch. And then we're going to end by slip stitching into the 3rd chain of this beginning chain 4. And you should have, like I said, 31 V-stitches now, like that. And that will end round 7. Okay, now round 8. We're just going to slip stitch 1 time right here to this first V-stitch. And then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. And we're going to go back into that same chain space and double crochet. So that's our first V-stitch. Now what we're going to do for this round is chain 2. And then we're going to come and we're going to single crochet right here through this chain 3 space from the previous round. So right through here, just go right through the whole space and single crochet, and then you chain 2 again, and then you go to the next V-stitch, the chain space of the V-stitch, and do another V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, just like that. And again we're going to chain 2 and single crochet right here through this big chain 3 space, chain 2 again, 1, 2, and jump to the next V-stitch and do a V-stitch. So this is actually a really easy stitch to do. So double crochet, if my yarn didn't split constantly, chain 1 and double crochet. Then we're going to chain 2, single crochet right back here into this chain 3 space, chain 2, and V-stitch into the next V-stitch. And we're just going to repeat this all the way around. I actually just ripped this all out already. I had it like my whole skein crocheted and I didn't like it, so I took it out. I didn't think anybody would like it. I mean, it wasn't really that good. So then you chain 2 again and and single crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 2, and V-stitch into the next V-stitch space. So I'm just going to repeat this pattern all the way around, and this is what it's kind of starting to look like. And when you get back around, you still should have 31 V-stitches, because we're still keeping V-stitching in the same on top of every V-stitch. So you're always going to have 31 V-stitches. Chain 2, and then a V-stitch into the next V-stitch. Chain 2, single crochet into the chain 3 space, chain 2, V-stitch into the next V-stitch. So I'm going to continue this around until I get back to the beginning. Okay, I'm coming to the end of round 8, and I did my V-stitch here, and I chained 2. Now I want to go through this last chain 3 space and single crochet, chain 2, and then I'm going to end it by slip stitching into the 3rd chain of this beginning chain 4, like that, and you should have the 31 V-stitches just like that. Now actually it's just a repeat of those 2 rows now, so it's pretty easy. So we're going to slip stitch over to the first V-stitch, and we're going to chain 4, because this is how we start every row. And then we're going to go back into that same spot and double crochet. So that's our first V-stitch. Now we're going to do what we did over here. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to skip all this and jump to the next V-stitch and V-stitch in it. Chain 1 and double crochet, and then we're going to chain 3 again, and then skip all this, look for your next V-stitch right here, and we're going to V-stitch into that V-stitch. Chain 3, skip all this here, find your next V-stitch and V-stitch into it. So it's kind of like what we did on the 7th row. Oops. Chain 3, skip this stuff, find your next V-stitch and V-stitch in it. So you're just going to repeat this all the way around, and you'll still have your 31 V-stitches when you make it back around. Okay, I've made it back around, and I did my V-stitch here in this V-stitch. I chained 3, and I'm going to end it by slip stitching into the 3rd stitch of the beginning chain 4, 31 V-stitches. Again, I'm going to start by slip stitching over into that first V-stitch, chain 4, go back and double crochet into that same spot, and now I'm going to repeat the row before that by chaining 2 and single crocheting right here into this chain 3 space, chain 2, V-stitch right here in the top of this V-stitch, chain 2, single crochet right here through this chain 3 space, chain 2, V-stitch right here into the top of the next V-stitch. So now it's just smooth sailing from now on. It's just repeating these 2 rows. Chain 2, single crochet right through that chain 3 space, chain 2, and V-stitch right here into this V-stitch space. So we're going to repeat this pattern for as long as we want the dress to be, and that's what it starts to kind of look like. You know, of course your baby will have to wear some type of slip underneath it, but I'm going to keep going. Okay, I've done a total of, starting from row 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 19 rows. And your last row should be where you have the V-stitches with the chain 3s. Okay, now I'm just going to start my edging color, my white, right here where we left off in this chain 1 space. I'm going to make some shell stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a chain of 4. And now that chain of 4 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. So I'm going to go back into that same spot and I'm going to do a double crochet and I'm going to chain 1. And I'm going to go back again and do a double crochet and chain 1. I want to have a total of 5 double crochets and chain 1s in between them. So I got, counting this one, I got 1, 2, 3, and then I chained 1. Here's 4, chain 1, and there's 5. Now we're not going to chain 1 after that last one. What we're going to do is jump right over here to this chain 3 space and single crochet into it. And now I'm going to jump to the next V-stitch and I'm going to do this again. So I'm going to yarn over and do double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, that's 3, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, that's 4, 1 more double crochet, and that's 5. Then don't chain 1 after that one. Come right over here to the chain 3 space and single crochet. And now I'm just going to repeat this all the way around. So I'm going to jump to the next V-stitch space and I'm going to do it again. Double crochet, chain 1. That's 1. Here's 2, chain 1. 3, chain 1. 4, chain 1, and 5. Don't chain 1 after that last one, but go ahead and single crochet into the chain 3 space. Now I'm just going to repeat this in every single one of these V-stitches all the way around. Okay, I've made it back around to the beginning, and now what I want to do is make sure I single crochet into this last chain 3 space. And now I'm going to end by slip stitching into the 3rd chain of this beginning chain 4. Now you can be done with your edging if you want now. I'm actually going to go around and put some picots on it to make it look a little bit more fancier. So a little time consuming, but it looks really pretty. So what I'm going to do is go right back into that same stitch. I'm going to chain 1 and then I'm going to go right back into that same stitch and single crochet. And then I'm going to jump to in between the next 2, that chain 1 space, and single crochet. And now I'm going to do a picot. So I'm going to chain 3. Now normally people, I think, they slip stitch back into this first stitch to form a picot. I like to slip stitch right here in this 2 side stitches. It makes the picot more, it holds it more in place. That's my opinion anyways. Like that. And that forms that little ball. Now what we're going to do is single crochet into the top of the next double crochet, single crochet into the chain 1 space in between the next 2 double crochets, and that's where we'll do our picot again. So we'll chain 3, come back down, and I slip stitch right here to the side there, and that's our picot. Single crochet into the top of the next double crochet, and then single crochet into the chain 1 space in between the next. So the picots are going into that chain 1 space, chain 3, come back down and slip stitch right here in the side here, single crochet into the top of the next double, single crochet in between the next 2 doubles, the chain 1 space in between, do your picot, chain 3, and then come back down and slip stitch there like that, and then single crochet into the top of that last double, and when you look you should have 4 picots, 1 2 3 4, just like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to completely skip this single crochet here and single crochet into this double crochet of this next shell, so the first double crochet like that, and I'm going to start again, and then I'm going to single crochet into the chain 1 space in between, and then I'll do my picot, single crochet into the top of the next double, single crochet into the chain 1 space between the next 2 doubles, do my picot, single crochet into the top of the next double, single crochet into the chain 1 space, picot, single crochet into the top of the next double, single crochet here in this last chain 1 space, picot, single crochet into the top of the last double, and you should have your 4 picots there, and I do. So I'm just going to start again. I'm going to skip this single crochet completely and start by single crocheting over here into the first double, and then single crocheting in between them, that chain 1 space, and doing my picot. So I'm just going to continue this around until I get back to the beginning. And like I said, if you don't like that, you don't have to put it on. It's your dress. You do it however you want. It is a little time consuming, like I said, but it's pretty. Just adds a little bit of a nice touch to it. So I'm going to continue going around until I get back to the beginning. Okay, once you get all the way around, what you want to do is slip stitch into that first single crochet you made, not the chain 1, the first single crochet, and then you can tie that off and be done with that edging. And now I'm going to work on the sleeves, which I already have one done. I decided to do the poofy sleeves on this one. So these are pretty easy to do. Okay, we're going to start our yarn. Maybe here, mine's all tangled up for some reason. Now both sleeves are going to be made the exact same way, so I'll just show you on this one, and you can do the other one the same. Okay, we're going to start right here in like the little armpit area. Now you want to start your yarn when you open it up in this stitch right here, right next this stitch, which is actually right next to the 2 that we put through the chain 2 earlier on in the beginning. Remember that. So start right there, and we're going to start off by doing a chain of 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to triple crochet 3 together. So in this spot right here next to it, what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, go right through this chain space, draw up a loop, and yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on our hook. Now we're going to go in between these 2 stitches, yarn over, go in between them, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops on our hook, and then we're going to go right here in this space on the other side of the stitches. We're going to yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through the first 2 loops on our hook like that. Then you go through all 4 loops on your hook, and what you did is you took 3 stitches and you made it into 1. Now this little spot here, you want to put 1 double crochet into that spot, and then this stitch here is kind of like the side of a double crochet on the side kind of. I put 1 stitch and I kind of go through it like that. Just 1 double crochet, and then 1 double crochet right here in this big spot. And now I'm just going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch around, just like this, until I get back around to the other side. So all the way around until I get back over to here, and I'll meet you back over here somewhere. Okay, once you've made it all the way around, I have 25 stitches so far, counting this chain 3. This will be my 26th stitch. This kind of side of this double right here, like we had on the other side, you just put 1 double crochet kind of through that, like that, and that'll be 26 stitches because we did these 3 together and that only made 1. So then we're going to slip stitch into the top of our beginning chain 3. Now we're going to chain 3 again. Now this time around we're going to put 2 double crochets in every single stitch all the way around. So I'm going to go back into that same stitch and put a double crochet, and then I'm going to put a double crochet or 2 double crochets in the next, 2 double crochets in the next, 2 double crochets into the next, all the way around back to the beginning. And when you get back around, you should have a total of 52 stitches at the end of this row 2 on the sleeves. So 2 in each stitch. Okay, I've made it back around and I got my 52 stitches on the sleeve. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of my chain 3. I'm going to chain 3 again, which is counting as my double crochet. Now this time I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around. So row 3 of the sleeve is 1 double crochet in every stitch, and you still should have 52 stitches when you make it back around. So just like that. 1 double every stitch back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it back around again on the 3rd row of the sleeves. You want to go ahead and slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain 3. Now we're going to start decreasing because you can tell that it's really kind of big looking. So we're going to make it look a little bit better now. We're going to chain 3, and now we're going to do a double crochet decrease. So what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and go through all 3. So that took 2 stitches and made it into 1. Now we're going to do a regular double crochet into the next stitch, and then we're going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches. So we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, and then we're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and go through all 3. Now we're going to do a regular double crochet into the next stitch, and then a double crochet decrease over the next 2. So we'll yarn over, go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over and go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through all 3. Now we're just going to keep repeating this pattern all the way around the whole sleeve. 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2. Regular double crochet into the next stitch, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2. So go ahead and repeat this all the way around, back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it around, and I just did my last double crochet decrease, and you'll have 1 stitch left. Just go ahead and double crochet into that one, and then in with the slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain 3. You should have 35 stitches now. Now what we're going to do is chain 3, and we're going to repeat that row again. So we're going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2, and double crochet into the next, double crochet decrease, and double crochet. So I'm just repeating the round I just did, and that is the 5th round of the sleeve is what we're working on. Now I'm just repeating the row before. Okay, I've made it around, and I did a double crochet, my last double crochet decrease. I have 2 stitches left, and I'm just going to go ahead and double crochet in each of those last stitches, just 1 in each of them, and then you should have 24 stitches now, and on that 5th round of the sleeve. So you want to go ahead and slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain 3. I'm going to do 1 more row of decreases, so I'm going to chain 3 for my first double crochet. Now I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next, and now the next one is going to be a double crochet decrease over the next 2. Like that. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 double crochet into the next, 1 double crochet into the next, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2. Like that. Again, I'm going to 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2, double crochet decrease in each of the next 2 stitches. So that was, or 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So that was 1, 2, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2. And we're just going to repeat that back to the beginning. Okay, once you make it back around, you should have ended in a double crochet decrease. Go ahead and slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain 3. And now you can tie this color off. And now I'm going to switch colors. Man, I cut that close on this orange yarn. I just do not have very much left, but I made it. So go ahead and tie that off like that, and then we're going to start with the white and just do a little edge on the sleeve, and I'm just going to start in the same spot that I ended in. And you just want to start your yarn and chain 1, and now go right back into that same spot and single crochet, Now I'm going to single crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to do a picot. So I'm going to chain 3, go back down, and slip stitch. That. And I'm going to do a single crochet into the next stitch, and then a single crochet into the next one, and then I'll do a picot here. So 1, 2, 3, come back down and slip stitch like that. Try that again. I got shaky hands today. I drank too much coffee. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next, and then picot. So we're just going to repeat this around. We're just single crocheting and we're picoting in every other stitch. Yeah. Way too much coffee for me. Single crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next, and then picot. So go ahead and finish this pattern all the way back around. Okay, I've made it around and I just did my last picot, and now you want to end it by slip stitching into your first single crochet, not the chain 1, but the first single crochet you did. Clip your yarn, tie that off. You should have 9 picots on each sleeve. Remember, you just do both sleeves the same. I think I'm just going to do a couple more things before I am done. I'm going to do just a white border around the top. Again, you don't have to do that. That's completely up to you. But you want to start your yarn. Let's see. Flip it over. And to make it look right, you want to start it. I don't know why that's all tangled up. Right here. And then we'll work this way. That way the stitches will be facing the right side. So just start your yarn up here in this very first stitch here, where your knot's at, kind of right underneath it, I guess. I guess it doesn't even have to be exactly there. Just go in the one next to it. It isn't gonna matter. Okay. Now we're gonna chain 1, and we're gonna go back into that same spot and single crochet. Now I'm going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch across the top, just to clean up the top edge and make it look a little neater. I'm not going to do any picots or nothing. Of course you can if you want. They'd be pretty up here. I'm just about picot out now, though. I don't really want to do anymore. I've done so many on the bottom and stuff. So I'm just going to keep going around and put 1 single crochet in every stitch along the collar here until I get back over here to the other side. Okay, when you make it over here to the other side, you got this last little chain here. Just kind of slip stitch into that, like that. And that will end that edging row. You can clip that off and hide all them tails. I have a lot of tails to hide. So, now I think I'm just going to make a little crochet flower to put on it. I was going to put the ribbon rose on it, but I use these. You can use these if you want, but I use them on a lot of my dresses. So I'm just going to make a homemade crochet a little flower real quick. So I'm going to set this to the side. Okay, for the flower, you don't have to do this, but start with a longer tail if you're going to, so you can sew it on with that. And I'm going to start off with a chain of, let's see, 5. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch to form a ring. This is be a really easy flower. Now I'm going to chain 3, and now I'm going to work 2 double crochets through the center of the ring. So there's 1, 2, now I'm going to chain 3 and slip stitch back into the ring, and that is going to be 1 petal, and I'm going to do that 5 times. So it's just a tiny flower. 1, 2, 3, 2 double crochets back into the ring. There's 1, 2, chain 3, and slip stitch back into the center. So I'm going to do that 5 times so I have a 5 petal flower. Okay, I just made my 5th petal and I chained 3 and slip stitch back into the ring. Now I'm just going to tie it off. And then I'm just going to sew it on somewhere on my dress. Yes. Now if you can straighten it up and get all the petals together. If you pull this center, it should make that circle a little smaller. But I actually have a little button thingamajig here that I'm going to put in the center of my flower. Like that. And you can use any type of button. Or you don't even have to use a button. So that little circle doesn't matter to me. That's what I'm going to use to sew the button on. But I'm going to bring my dress out here. And you just decide where you want to put it. It's really up to you. You can put it anywhere. In the center, I'll probably put it up on the side here a little bit. Just kind of place it wherever you think it's going to look best. Let me lay it out here. The center would be kind of cute. Down there would be really cute. I don't know. You just decide where you want to put it. And then you just use your yarn and yarn needle to sew it onto the dress with this. With your tails.